My name is Mike Shanto. I'm not very young. I'm 79. I was born in Blair Atholl. The only time I've been away was 7 years when I was in Canada from 45 to 52, and I've lived in Blair Atholl ever since. I've worked at a good number of jobs. I served my time in the garage here, and I still live here. The thing that got me interested about the station was Vivian Cree. I met her and we got chatting about the station for some reason, and I told her that my mother met my father when she was a clerk in the station in 1943 or 44, and they got married. He was Canadian, and that's how I got interested in the station. Also, I had a relation, it was a cousin of my mother's, who's been in the station for many, many, many years, and he was a good friend and a good, well-known porter in Blair Atholl Station. A ship that we came across from Canada on docked in Greenock, and my grandmother and grandfather came to meet us, and we all travelled up by train from Greenock to Blair Atholl. We got into Blair Atholl Station, and I think it was 10 to 10 in September, the end of September in 1952. We got off the train and it was so dark and dingy, and it was gas lamps that were lit. And we walked down the platform, and my grandmother and grandfather stayed in 8 railway cottages, which is beside where the signal box is now and the railway crossing is. We walked down there, and the man that was looking after the station, he walked behind us and pulled the lamps to shut them off, the gas lamps there were at the time. And we went into this little house. It was like a doll's house compared to what we had in Canada. A railway house. My grandfather, he was well known in the railway. He was a ganger and a well-liked person.
So you said that your mum worked as a clerk at the station?
Yes, she started there when she left school. She'd have been there, I was just thinking about it, I think for about 4 years before she left to get married to my dad in 1944.
Does that mean that she had to leave when she got married?
No, we're going to Canada. That's the only reason
right.
she left.
Okay.
In fact, I tell a lie. She worked on, my dad went back in 44 and we went out in 45. It's about 10 months or a year later or something like that. But she carried on part-time in the station after I was born, because my granny looked after me. But then when it was time to go to Canada, that was it, she left the station then. But she's always been known at the station through, as I said, her cousin Jim McBain. And she spent a lot of time there, believe it or not, visiting, just going to see Jim. And when his relations came down from Kincraig, they would meet at the station sometimes, and that's where they meet, and when they'd get another train going up. Come off one train and have a blether, get on the train and go back up.
Really?
Yeah.
So they would come
I
all
can
that
remember
way?
that. Yeah. Well, Jim would be working, in the thing. It was actually quite good, because it was like Jim made the tea and everything. He sat in that the ticket place. He sat in there, and he was so good a guy and so well known and liked, Jim McBain. But and he didn't make just tea for us. He used to make it from strays. Folk that were sitting out waiting on a train.
Yeah.
If it's a cold day, Jim was out with a cup of coffee or tea for them.
Yeah.
It was usually tea, not coffee. It was tea.
Yeah.
Usually tea, but he was well known. He was known all over the world. They had postcards everywhere. I mean, that's why I would like to get into ticket offices, because all the walls were covered with postcards from all over the world that Jim had met. All the jamboree people came. All the trains were loaded with all the scouts that came from different countries. There wasn't bus so much. There was 1 or 2 buses maybe, but it's usually all train that delivered the scouts from all over the world to Blair Atholl Station.
Now, obviously the Scout Jamboree happens every 2 years?
Four.
Oh, 4 years.
That's it. No, every 4 years was the jamboree, and then every 2 years was a jamborette,
Okay.
which was a smaller one.
Right.
But it was about half the size of the but the jamborette was about half the size of the jamboree.
Okay, so the Jamboree was 1,000 Scouts.
Aye. The park that's now the caravan site, and the park across from the caravan site, that was all full. That was full right up to the top, full of tents. And then they had open days there, open nights, more like campfires, and the local people were invited in.
Oh,
and
nice.
The scouts would do different turns from different countries. It was great, and it was good for the village.
Yeah.
But it kept the railway station going anyway, the Jamboree, because it was busy. And then all going home as well. We were scouts ourselves, and you took a scout home for a week. All the different nationals, you would take a scout for a week, and then there was some from Sain and Pitlochry with the scouts, Pitlochry, some in Blair Atholl, and then a week later they were all gathered together, and to Glasgow they went, and then to their different destinations.
Let's come back to your grandfather was a ganger.
Mm-hmm.
What's a ganger?
A guy was in charge of the boys that sorting the rails and everything. Now, I went with him every Sunday morning. Before the mail train came up, we called it the mail train. It wasn't, because it was on a Sunday. It was a Sunday post was delivered. The papers were delivered on a Sunday morning. About 11 o'clock the train came in. And in the morning we'd set off early, about 8, and walk the line from Blair Atholl, him and I, from Blair Atholl to Killiecrankie, checking the pegs in the rails. And then walk back up. And then as a treat, when the train came in, it was a steam train, of course, came in with the paper train, as we called it, unload the passengers and stuff. It had to get pushed up the hill with a pilot, they called it, another steam train. And in Blair Atholl there was an engine shed with a turntable and everything. So I got on the train with the fireman and the driver, and my grandfather, myself. We pushed up to the top of the Mochter, and then reversed all the way back on its own. Turned it on the railway station. I got to push the thing around, and that was my Sunday.
Goodness.
Sunday morning. And I done that for years. All my time, more of my primary school, from primary 3 to primary 7 in Blair Atholl. Things change a bit when you get a wee bit older, and you do different things with different people then, when I was in Pitlochry school. But, and I remember when it was the steam trains, and my grandfather he moved from railway cottages up into, there were the new houses then, beside the school. The school wasn't built there then. He moved up there into a bigger house. But he still was working on the railway, and the drivers used to throw coal out just before before the railway bridge, and he would go down and gather coal for his fires. That's what the firemen threw the coal out for the guys to use,
So that
the railway boys.
Everybody did that then. It wasn't just for your family.
Not just my family. No. The boys would throw out some coal and you'd just go and gather.
Yeah.
I don't mean a truckload of it.
No.
It's just big lumps of it. And if you broke it up, there'd be enough of the lumps maybe to last you the whole night, sort of thing, But I used to go down with them to pick it up down through the field with it. It's now a caravan park. We used to go down there and pick up things.
Was that every day you did that then?
Not every day, no, not every day. We would maybe do it a Friday and a Saturday. Never on the Sunday, because we walked the line thing on the Sunday. But no, not every day. But he would always know when they were going to dump some coal. And as you said, it wasn't just for him. We had Frank Law that lived next door. He was an ex-railway man too. He got coal. Mm-hmm. But it was just part of the perks.
Yeah.
They weren't well paid or anything.
But one of the things that is really obvious about the story you're giving is that a child was involved in doing things which you would never let children do now.
No, but
Health and
no,
safety.
Yeah, but I mean, everything that we did, you know,
Yeah.
when you're young, you would never get away. But that's what made our life.
Uh-huh.
There was no televisions or computers or nothing. In fact, a radio, you had to go up to the garage to get the battery for your radio charged up on a little electrical thing. You know. There was nothing, and we were never off the hill. And as I said, at the railway yard, turning the steam it was very light. You just pushed it, and the whole steam train, big huge steam train went round. You know, you pushed it, and there's a brake thing that locked it on opposite the rails, and away it go. And there was a shunting yard came right along the back of railway cottages. That's where, if there was two trains in it and there was a goods train, they would reverse in there until the passenger train went, and then the goods train would go up.
So did your family stay with your granny and grandpa then
When we came here in 1952, we were there till we got a house at Alcloon, which was a big difference for us, because, I mean, there was no rationing in Canada when we left or anything like that. When we came here, it was rationing. A ration, but we got a little poke of sweeties that lasts a week. I mean, I could have ate that in an hour in Canada, sort of thing, like, you know. But when we did stay in this little house, a little stairway it had in, there was a very small outside toilet, thing I'd never seen, other than we had a camp in Chippewa Park, and that had an outside toilet, but I never ever seen a house with an outside toilet until I came to Blair Atholl. And there was a wash house as well out there for doing the washing.
And was that a communal thing?
The toilet wasn't. No, the toilets.
No, I mean the wash house.
Yeah, no, they were individual.
Okay.
For the. Yeah, they were individual. No, they were all separate. The wash house. I'm telling you, I think the wash house done 2 cottages.
Yeah, that would probably be right.
Yeah, the toilets weren't.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no such thing as no bath or anything.
No, the house must have been pretty busy.
Oh, it was busy, all right. It was busy, and it was another thing. And when I came off that train that day, that was saying, we walked down the platform and went into the house, my grandmother's house. It was a tilly lamp that was going, and you could smell it, like.
Yeah.
And I always remember in icing, the mirror above the fireplace was "Welcome home, Babs and Mike and family." It was written in the mirror, but our next door neighbour was my godmother. We've got Irene. But I said to my folk, I says, I'm not staying here, I'm going home.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Because I'd never seen no electricity. As I said, the only place we had lamps. In fact, I tell a lie, there was electricity in the house. There wasn't a toilet. You had an outside toilet on the Chippewa Park. And that was a log cabin. Just went there at the weekends, not every weekend, but some weekends.
So there wasn't electricity in the little railway cottage house at all?
No, all tilly lamps. All tilly lamps. There was nothing, there was none of the shops. And then over the railway crossing, which is the wee house, you can rent it and that, just on the left-hand side over the railway crossing. That was where you bought your tea bread, and that's a baker shop in there. Yeah, and that was all lamps in there as well.
Yeah.
There was no electricity at all.
Yeah.
But the railway, as I said, the railway was a big part. And once we finished you primary 7, Pitlochry School, Blair Atholl School, then you had 3 years in Pitlochry. And that was a 10 to 9 train. I always remember 10 to 9 was when it left Blair Atholl. It went reversed itself up to Struan, got the Struan kids and any folk that were going on the train, came back, picked us up at 10 to 9, Killycranky, stopped there, picked up the kids from there and gone on to Pitlochry. We all got off, and then the train went to Perth. There'd be goods on, like I explained before, the rabbit catcher, Peter Roy, that used to put his crates of rabbits that hung by, their legs were crossed to the bar, and there was pears, and he would put them in the he would put them in the back in the gas van bit. to get delivered to Perth, the butchers and that in Perth. Yeah, but I mean, it was nothing seeing them there.
No.
Nothing, I mean, nobody bothered about it. It was just a part of life. And Peter was there. I think he put it'd be 2 times a week or 3 times a week he put his rabbits out on the train.
Yeah.
But once we got to Pitlochry, off we all got and walked up the hill to the school. And then the train we got back on was 5 o'clock. The school finished at 4:10 past 4. We walked down the hill, got the 5 o'clock train to the station. But we could also use our pass on a Saturday to go down to Pitlochry to the pictures. And we go maybe in the 5 o'clock and come back, I think it was 9 something, the train coming back. And we could do that for nothing, we never had to pay for that.
That's good.
Which was good, but no, there really was, when I now talking about it, it was a very important part of the village thing.
Yeah.
There was no hardly a bus service. There was a bus service, but most of the folk used the train if you were going to Perth or things like that, like, you know.
So tell me the story of the lights when you were on the train going to Pitlochry.
Well, the initiation, when you first started your first year in Pitlochry, you would 11, 12, was you had to unscrew a bulb in the carriage, and the carriages went corridors to start with. It was just you opened the door and you went in, and there was a bench on one side and a bench on the other, clad. It wasn't a hard bench, it had cushion things on, like. You got on there and had, I think it was either 4 or 6 bulbs screwed in the light in the roof. And you had to take a bulb out, and when you went into the tunnel at Killycranky, you had to open the window and throw it down. That was your initiation. You only done it the one day, just that one day, but everybody had to do it. And if everybody didn't do it the one day, they had to do it the next. And then the next year, the first years that came on, they were told to do the same thing. It was a stupid initiation, but it had gone on for years. Years that was handed down.
Was it girls and boys?
Girls and boys. Girls and boys. But as I said, there was, I think it sat kids. I would say 16 of us would be in a. You wouldn't get 16 adults in maybe, but you've got 16 kids in there. Once the corridor came on, that all stopped because the guard could walk up and down.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that before, you see, because you opened the door and that's just who was ever in there was in, and that's it. But
So how many carriages was the train in total?
3.
And were all the children in one
No.
carriage?
Oh
They were in all different
no.
carriages?
No. You could sit wherever you wanted. I mean, there didn't have to be 12 in a thing like that. But if there was 12, we were all friends. You would all try and get into one carriage, sort of thing, like, you know. Or you'd meet up with guys that you were pal, girls that you were pally with from Struan. They were looking out the window and you would get in where they were, so you were all together and you walked up to school together. It wasn't gangs, but it was just friends.
Yeah.
Friends that you had. Oh no.
Were there any adults on the train as well?
Oh aye. But very rare were they in the same. If they were in the carriage, there's no way you through the box. No. No, it was very rare the adults came into the school with the school ones. Very, because there was loads of other places for the adults to go.
Yeah.
To me, the best time of the railway was the steam. And they used to all stop here for water. You had your hoses, the ones going south was just past where the waiting room is on this side, and the other water tank was just at the railway crossing, where the signal thing is. That was it. It was just a big, tall, like a lamp post with a canvas bag thing that they just hooked on and then filled up the tank for the steam and that. But it was a great. But honest, the railway was great. I mean, we're never away from the railway with kids, and we'd done stupid things as well. As I told you, we stole detonators that they had for stopping trains, and it was just a round thing about, what would I say, the size of a small lid, and it had two lead straps out of it. And if anyone was working the railway, if something happened, they would put these round the line, and the train would go out with a bang, and they would know to stop. But we stole them, and we used to drop rocks from them, and we could have killed ourselves. We didn't steal them all the time. We got odd ones. And the guys that used the wheel tappers, the boys that they had where the waiting room is now, over behind it, you can still see the lines, the shunting yard there. Yeah. They had it was an old railway carbon that was made into a hut for them, there was a fire and everything in it, like a chimney and everything. And we used to sit with them and get cups of tea from them and everything, but they used to give us the carbide they used to put in the lamps. And the medicine bottles you had then were corks. And if you put the carbide in water with it and shook it, it exploded. It was like a shotgun.
You said wheel tapper.
The wheel tappers, they had to go around to make sure all the brakes were off on the goods trains, especially for going up the hill. They just tapped it. It's like a sledgehammer.
Okay.
But a bit same size, same height sort of thing. A little bit lighter head than the sledgehammer, and they went right along all the train, every wheel, and tapped it. And they know something wrong. They knew the sound if it went thud. There's something wrong with the brake locking on or something like that, And they would adjust it if they could, or the train would have to stay until it was sorted, because it was going up the hill. The drag on the train, and getting pushed up. That's what the wheel tappers were. There was two. There was always two.
And that was a job.
Yeah. Jock Sutherland. He stayed up in Tulloch Road there, the end house, and it was him that taught me to play golf. He was a great golfer. It was him. He was one of them, and the other boy stayed down by just outside of Killycranky. He had a motorbike. Always mind that. I'm trying to think his name, but I can't remember. But they were wheel tappers there, right? Mm-hmm.
So did that all stop when diesel came in then?
Oh, aye. Yeah. Well, Jock retired anyway. He had retired. Yeah. Oh, everything changed when the diesels came. Mm-hmm. Your engine shed disappeared, everything. Mm-hmm. It was a big. This was a main hub because of the having to push the trains up the hill with the pilots. Every train had to be pushed up the hill with a pilot. And you had there was two signal boxes on Blair Atholl. There's the one where there is now, and there's one further up. I don't know where it'll be, opposite where the railway coaches are on the other side, up at the top. We were lucky here too, because if we didn't do any damage or anything, and the guys would take you into the signal box. I knew the people. Some of them had sons that I palled about with, so you were never out the signal boxes or in the railway. Mm-hmm. Some of them worked in the clerking office as well, so the railway's part of your life. Yeah. It was a big part of mine when I came here. I just loved it. I loved the engine sheds. It's hard for anyone to realise, I don't think, because it's a bygone age now, with the steam. But it was just special, and the guys that worked on them, the firemen and the servicing guys, and it was just different,
Did you get to go on with an engine driver sometimes then?
Oh, that's when I went up in the pilot. When I went up in that pilot that was pushing with my grandfather, there's an engine driver, a fireman. There's always two guys on a train. There's not one. There's always two. You need to go out and shovel the coal. Yeah. And then your engine driver. You started off as a greaser. That was the boys that would go when the engines would come in down. They would grease them all up, ready for the next shunt up the thing. That was them serving their time. And then their next job was a fireman, which was up. You're on the footplate then, shoveling the coal. Yeah. And then you progress from there to the driver. Yeah. And what we used to get up there was, that's where we got our pea shooters. We weren't supposed to get them, but the greaser boys, they were young, you see, young lads, they weren't boys, but young lads. And there was things about a foot long, and there were gauges in the steam to show you how far the level of water was and all that, you know. The 2 glass gauges, and we used to ask for them for pea shooters. And we used to get them, and we used to hate if they gave us a thick one, because you needed the smaller rounds then to get through the thick one. You wanted the bigger one, you know. But that's what I'm saying.
What did you shoot with them?
Rounds. Right, off the round trees, aye. Red berries. Aye. So there was only a certain time that you could have them, like, you know. Yeah. Yeah. I was you had, there was seasons in Blair Atholl then. When I came here, you had 4 separate seasons. You had your winter, your spring, your summer, and your autumn. And they were all, you knew, I mean, a lot of snow, we used to have a lot of snow here in the winter time. Well, the other thing that we had in the railway, and I always remember it, was the newsagents, Mingus's. Yeah. It was always there, and that's where we used to buy our sweeties for going if we had money, if we wanted to buy. Yeah. It was a bookstall. Bookstalls they were called. And the woman that worked in it, for as long as I can remember, was a local lady that lived in the village here. The workers got less and less and less. You had less people working on the railway. Once you didn't need folk to look after the water pumps and check for the water. It came from Glenfender, the water. All the houses were fed by the railway. It was the railway water that we had until 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And they piped all of that thing in, but it was all the railway water. And that's another thing I used to do with my grandfather was sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, but sometimes on a Saturday, up to Glenfender and up the steep hill, and just where you turn to the right to go to the back of Lud, just up to the next bend, there was a wooden shed, and it had all the beds that filtered the water. Right. That's what it was, and that's where it came. And that was drinking water, but that's the same water that went in the trains. Yeah. And he looked after that as well, my grandfather. To me, the time of the railway was the steam trains, right from the very beginning of rocket, when Stevenson made it.
So have you ever driven a steam train yourself then?
Oh, I've had shots. That was part of what to go and you got to pull the whistle and everything as well.